spinning up Lovable apps in my personal account like all the time.
Wow.
So it just helps me understand the product very well. So I'm my own customer too. So I'm staying in that mind frame and I don't separate from it.
Well, welcome everybody to Customer-Led Growth, a podcast where we explore how some of the greatest leaders of our times build for the customers through their customers. Today, I'm super excited to have Elena Verna, who is the head of growth at Lovable, arguably the fastest growing company in history of software. But before that, had a legendary career in defining what modern product growth looks like. Elena started a career at Safeway as a data analyst, and then established the growth function at SurveyMonkey when SurveyMonkey was a very small company in 2009, and growth itself was a very nascent function. I think only Facebook had growth at that time.
Yeah.
And then since then, has defined and led growth at some of the most customer-loved companies of our times, like Miro, Dropbox, Amplitude, and now leading at Lovable. So, Elena, super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So maybe if I was just a couple of glean some insights on any learnings from the Safeway experience and then SurveyMonkey was a pretty a long tenure, 7 years through lots of changes in the broad industry. Any learnings from that period?
Yeah, so at Safeway, it was fascinating because Safeway is an extremely mature company. It's a grocery business. It's really big in the United States. It has stores in every single state, and the amount of data that company has is absolutely incredible. So many cuts, so many reports, so many statistical models that are already running on that data. So in terms of seeing what the universe of data, of structured data can actually look like, and unstructured, of the customer feedback, and how it was all aggregated in their data warehouses and how they was easily able to be queried. It was a really incredible experience coming out of school to say, oh my gosh, this is actually how it looks like. This is what it could be. However, one of the pieces that did not jive with me when I was at Safeway is that, yes, so much data, so many insights, and you can extract and see where there's business opportunity to be had, but the velocity of the organization is so slow that as a data analyst, I felt trapped where I knew where opportunities were, or I thought I knew where opportunities were, but there was no path to actually seeing it come to life or being tested with real customers to understand whether my hypothesis was correct. So one of the things at Safeway to me was really incredible to see the scale, but at the same time, I really quickly realized that the velocity at which the company is moving is just not for me. And that's something that really was eating heavy at my soul every single night of okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? How many more things do I need to analyze and push up the corporate ladder to try to get it tested?
Yeah.
Versus at SurveyMonkey, it was such an immature organization from data perspective.
Yeah.
And when I joined, even though the company was actually around for almost 10 years, it was run by a very small team of people, of under 10 folks, with 2 co-founders, a database engineer, another engineer, and a couple customer support reps, and that's it. So when I joined, I remember I was just starting one of my first queries that I had against the database of what's the average number of responses the survey get, because we didn't know some of those basics even around our business. So it was starting completely from scratch. Obviously, I had incredible support from data engineering and database administration people that helped me set up the data warehouse, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just an analyst, business analyst on the side, on just extracting insights, not knowing how to structure all of the ETLs and processes around it. But that came from me from Safeway, at least knowing what the end result looks like. But SurveyMonkey still sits so special in my heart of taking some of those first insights out of 10 years of plethora of information that have been cleanly stored in a database, and be able to really clearly articulate to business of the growth opportunities that to be had if we to optimize this part of the product, or go after this part of the market, or fix this issue in the flow.
So one of the things which I love what you said is at Safeway, you had this massive trove of data, but and you have all the insights, but if you can't act on the insight, and
useless.
then it's there's no point to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, which is probably a segue in my mind to the organization, which is the opposite of Safeway moving fast, which is your current job at Lovable, which lesser trove of data compared to Safeway maybe, but the velocity of the company, but also the industry, is massive.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what has that been like, where you have maybe the velocity is little too much, I guess, of the business growing, and you have to adapt to that.
Yeah. Lovable has been a very interesting case, and for me in terms of how I run a growth team, and quite different versus what I've done in a lot at SurveyMonkey or Miro or Amplitude or Dropbox or any other companies. And there's a couple of reasons for that in terms of how the business is actually operating and how I see the role of growth fitting into it. In every other business, let's say SurveyMonkey or Dropbox, the problem for growth was really optimization problem. Yeah, we needed to do some innovations as well and maybe standing up some growth loops as well, but the products were so vast and there was so much debt in optimizations and growth debt, so to speak, that we needed to cover, that even doing checkout, pricing, onboarding work was perfect in terms of achieving results, because small percentage movement in those rates resulted of outpaced impact.
Yeah.
However, at Lovable, it's a very interesting story because the business is growing like crazy, but there's no growth foundations that have been able to be set up yet. So there's not much to optimize yet either. So it's not an optimization problem, it's purely innovation problem for growth. So what do I mean by that? I'm focusing on, okay, I need to create free collaboration to unlock virality. We want to launch student discounts. We need to launch additional business plan to feed our B2B motion. And all of these things don't exist. So to me, I'm setting up all of those pillars first. So it's not very data-driven at the moment. It's very customer feedback driven.
Yeah.
It is all recording insights, so we're calculating of how impact is driving, but we're not yet moving into now let's optimize it and improve it by 20%.
Yeah.
That work has not started yet. Now, I've only been there for 3 months, so this will change over the next 6 months, and I'm laying down the foundation. I had my first data analyst start this week, and
Wow.
I'm so excited. We have data engineer now that is setting up our data warehouse. So we're also laying down foundation for that, but this is not something that is primary portion of my job at the moment.
Like Lovable is growing so fast that like the metrics almost don't mean much. Like right now, it's like all about just like understanding the different personas using product and knowing
Yes.
where to focus, right?
And really to chase that innovation. Like we still
Yeah.
have to almost, I know we have maybe over $100 million in revenue, but we still feel like we have to recapture our product market fit every single month because the category is evolving so
Wow.
quickly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we don't feel like we're in a scaling stage. We're almost still in the product market fit stage with just crazy amount of revenue that is coming in from the product market fit pool that we're feeling at the same time. But I also just want to say that when the company is growing so fast and you don't have these really strong targets of we're missing quarters revenue or we're missing quarterly targets, and you need to focus on short-term work, on short-term growth work to hit the quarterly targets, it also gives me opportunity to go and lay down bigger bets and bigger foundations that otherwise I would never have a chance to do or resourcing to allocate.
That's true.
Versus
Yeah.
this is like, okay, it's a runaway train for revenue, which is amazing, which
Yeah.
gives me opportunity
Yeah.
to put down the foundation. So if the growth slows down, I will have the pillars and
Yeah.
blocks in place that I can leverage to re-accelerate that growth, which is literally exactly what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think in your case, like what you're saying with Lovable is even the revenue pressure is the opposite basically. It's like growing
Yes.
very fast, but you still want to understand like what's actually driving the growth and
Yes.
how will we sustain it 12 months down the road.
And create ability for us to leverage something in the next 12 months
right.
to accelerate growth if we need to.
Yeah.
But all of those foundations take time. And right now, I would say at Lovable, we are a lot more customer driven, customer feedback driven than data driven and data insights driven. But as I said, the convergence will happen at some point. It definitely has not happened yet.
Yeah. And maybe like at Lovable, the other dimension which is very important is like the number of channels where your customers are talking.
Yes.
And also the scale of customers who are now, like great companies are able to sign up as like a customer base in digital
Yeah.
products, right? So how has that angle like changed basically how you think about keeping attuned with like, customer needs, like what are they happy with, what are the desires, where they're struggling with for different personas?
Yeah, so just like at SurveyMonkey, our customer support has really big voice in everything that is going on. I mean, they can come down with a big stick on me any given moment
Wow.
and say, you need to fix this. We have so many complaints about it. And I drop everything and I go and I fix that. So
Yeah.
I give customer support a really big role into what I'm doing, and the same thing is happening on core product as well. So we're very in tune with it. So if we feel that frustration bubble up through our customer support reps, we need to address it because it's at that point it has become too big. At the same time, I think communities is what's interesting because yeah, you can create a community that you own and you moderate, but then there's communities started to pop up all over the place. Communities on Reddit so we have our community at Lovable on Discord.
Yep.
And it's huge. It has thousands and thousands of people in it. So we have community moderators that are trying to scrape information and give us trends as well as to what's going on. They live and breathe that data, and they come back to us in aggregated form. We're still fairly small. Obviously, we'll need to unify it at some point and have like more trends. But Reddit community, we even had to hire somebody to monitor that because that was like a runaway train too, with so much feedback. And then on LinkedIn, on X, on Instagram through comments, even on TikTok. I mean, it's flowing at us through every single channel. And on one hand, it's really beautiful because it feels like you're surrounded by customer voices. And I like that more than 15 years ago where you had to pull it out of your support queue or even at SurveyMonkey, like nobody ever talked about SurveyMonkey, let's say on social platforms. Like it was not that. So maybe Lovable is also just a unique category in that sense where just a lot more people have strong opinions about us and what we do and what we don't do. But I really love it because I feel like I'm living in my customer's world, and it's shouting at me from every single direction, and so it's more of a prioritization and filtering problem as opposed to like trying to go out and get customer feedback.
And do you have any rituals for like just like staying attuned to like living in the customer world and making sure like you're...
I do. So I have two rituals that are very important to me. One of them I've had all the way from my SurveyMonkey days, and that I have to be my own customer of my own product that I'm working at.
Wow.
So at SurveyMonkey, that would be that I would get up and almost every 2 to 3 days, I would come in, I'd create a new account with a temp email, and I would go through the entire flow of sending a survey to somebody just to stay super close to the product. So I knew every single detail, every single nitty-gritty point and pixel and where everything is. And I still do it. I did it at Miro. I did it, it was harder at Amplitude, but I would create a bunch of charts, so it's harder to onboard on Amplitude. I did it at Dropbox. I'm definitely doing it at Lovable. I'm spinning up Lovable apps in my personal account like all the time.
Wow.
So it just helps me understand the product very well. So I'm my own customer too. So I'm staying in that mind frame and I don't separate from it. But then at the same time now, because there's so many channels, I have my rounds that I do across the channels. So for 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day, I do my rounds against Reddit, against Discord, against LinkedIn.
Wow.
And I go and I see what I see and like where we're getting tagged. Some places I respond where I feel the response is necessary. The rest is just the inflow of information that I then use my brain to sort through to recognize patterns.
Yeah, wow, okay, yeah. A side note, like as you scale it, enterprise can potentially
absolutely. But right now I also just love to see people like their passion in the channels, but absolutely it's not scalable and I most definitely will start seeing only power users shouting at me really loudly. But right now there's still so many trends to
still very new.
pattern.
I'm curious, like maybe in a more B2B context, because you've done this at like SurveyMonkey, Dropbox, Miro, Malwarebytes, and now like Lovable, like very different companies.
Yeah.
How did you adapt to like understanding what are the right quant signals and the qualitative signals at each of the company, depending on the stage of the company, their business model, and you know the type of customer they're serving, they have different set of expectations by default.
Yeah. So one common thread for me that has been in all of those companies is they had a really strong prosumer arm. So it wasn't just B2B, it's an enterprise sales motion. It is very much a prosumer consumer motion that happens within those companies as well. And that has been my constant because that is what I know well and that I can pattern match pretty well as well. However, when I think that the type of data that you use, qualitative versus quantitative, and how heavy you lean on one versus the other, depends on the stage that you are in the life cycle of the business. So if you're in the heavy optimization stage, you more prioritize quantitative data versus qualitative data because you're kind of looking to scale your existing system, not necessarily hear what customers want next, versus when you're in the innovation stage of your business, you prioritize qualitative data hell of a lot more than the quantitative data. And quantitative data is just more of a support, but the past here in history can actually take you to a wrong direction if you're trying to create a step function change in your product business,
Right.
or even in your product's growth model,
Yep.
because it can ground you in the wrong perception
Yep.
of what's happening and what needs to be done. So for me, like a Dropbox is a great example, and SurveyMonkey was a great example of truly optimization stage, where you go and you're like looking for those 5-10% improvements in the metrics, versus in companies like Miro or even Amplitude. In terms of my project that I was there in, most definitely Lovable, I realized so much more heavily on qualitative data.
Right.
And I think it's like jarring to a lot of growth professionals, because like, oh my gosh, you have to be data driven. I'm like, no, I'm data informed. Right now, I
Yep.
cannot afford to be data driven,
Yep.
because we're still innovating, and
Yep.
I need to look in the future and be very cognizant of the data pieces that I pick up from the past and how I apply them.
Yeah, yeah, wow. You know, I love what you said. It's like, I think when you're in the optimization phase, like you can rely on quantitative historical data, because like
Yes.
that's probably understandably a very valuable driver, and probably the
That's
major
what
driver.
you're optimizing.
That's what
Like,
you're optimizing.
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Versus like when you're innovating, like that can almost be lead you down the wrong path, basically.
Yeah, you're redefining your product market fit when you're innovating, whether
Yeah.
that's within product or within how you grow.
Yeah.
Because growth models also, I believe, have product market fits. Like
Yeah.
they need to be,
That's true.
they need
Yeah.
to apply to the market in
Yeah,
order
yeah.
to function and spin at the right time. But there you have to listen to your customers more. You just have to. You cannot.
Yeah.
Data driven actually will slow you down and will prevent progress from happening.
Yeah.
So like you need to know when to pull that lever.
Yeah.
Each one of them
Yeah.
in the right, like, to the right level.
Yeah. Is that the reason? I guess what's your like why like larger companies often get disrupted is because they're not able to scale their understanding of customer insights as the company scales, and like they just get stuck in the optimization and place little like undeserved amount of trust purely on the quantitative data.
I actually think that the reason larger companies often get disrupted is twofold. Number one, you most of your revenue comes from your existing users,
Yeah.
not from a new market that you potentially need to unlock or a
Right.
new product that you have.
Yeah.
So you can't let go of that revenue, yet you need to introduce new revenue stream.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult proposition to like turn around internally, because usually all of your time and effort is spent in just protecting your existing revenue and protecting your slice of the market.
Yep.
And that creates a bunch of risk averseness, or really a lot of impatience in when we're introducing something new, how fast it needs to start contributing to my revenue growth. Versus new companies, they don't care so much about revenue. They're looking for engagement. They're
Yeah.
going after land grab. They're a lot more they're a lot more risk tolerant.
Right.
So they don't have this existing base to protect. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like an anchor weighing them down to
Yeah.
the bottom of the ocean, which is what's happening in some of the larger businesses. So that's why they usually larger businesses I see split up into GM units and try to like have a startup within the company,
Yeah.
just to disattach yourself from this existing user base. And that existing user base is valuable, but it's also becomes a lot to maintain, especially the older the businesses with
Yeah.
all of the edge cases and tech debt. So I think this is where also larger companies need to know the risk threshold for taking new opportunities,
Right.
and letting go some of their existing customers that are weighing them down at the promise that new revenue is going to make up and surpass that.
Yeah.
But that is an incredibly difficult decision to make
Yep.
internally, because it's an immediate revenue hit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
investors are never happy about
Yep.
that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think maybe like on the theme of disruption, we're obviously living in a like unbelievable time.
Yeah.
In like just technology.
Crazy time. Crazy time.
And like so like for most companies, like 95%, maybe like 99%,
Yeah.
right? You have a three-pronged attack basically of like young startups, like large behemoths, but also like these foundational model companies.
And don't forget about their own customers, because if that 99% of the companies is monetizing on very commoditized functionality, and now you can vibe code that functionality,
Yeah.
customer on their own, their customer all of a sudden starts to become their own competitor too.
Wow.
And that's like additional pressure that
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
never felt before
Yeah.
over the last 10 years.
Yeah. So, what would you advise me to the most of the companies that who are facing this, maybe like a four-pronged attack?
Yeah.
On like how do they drive customer-led growth? Like how do they maximize CLTV, customer lifetime value, basically?
Yeah, I think if you are in the optimization stage of your business, which is a lot of businesses in that 99% category, an optimization category, I think you have to pull your head out of the data, quantitative data, and really open up your mind to qualitative data and start looking for patterns there.
Yeah.
So you need to just rebalance the priorities. And it doesn't come natural, by the way, to a lot of growth teams because they're so quantitative driven.
Yep.
They forget to look at qualitative. It comes naturally to product management organizations, which is wonderful. So plug into it and make it a company-wide understanding of where is it that your customers want you to go. But tactically speaking, I would focus on two specific things. Number one, in this market, especially with AI, velocity becomes everything.
Yep.
How quickly you can get to an outcome that your customer wants you to get to. You have no more ability to wait 8 months, a year to develop something because you need to refactor your database or because
Yep.
you need to do this big migration or because you have a bunch of tech debt to deal with. Customer does not care. There's a bunch of solutions pop up and they're going to start exploring. Everybody will have a wondering eye. So I think fixing velocity organizationally becomes one of the really big things. And there's many ways to do it. We're not going to go into it, but you have to think about the velocity of shipping.
Yep.
On marketing, on product, on growth, on support, every function should be able to start shipping really fast to customer. And then the second thing that I would most definitely prioritize if I worked at any other business is building moats or building ecosystems,
Yep.
giving the reason for customer to be with you outside of just core product offering,
Yep.
because that is starting to be not enough. With democratization
Yeah.
of product development and the lowering of cost of software development, having great product, everybody can all of a sudden build it. Maybe not very complex product, but we're getting there. We're gonna get there.
Yep.
So finding a moat, whether it's integrations, whether it's your network effects, whether it's your virality, whether it's the way that you price on the outcome and you highly align to it, whatever it is, find it of the reason a customer would stay with you, whether it's switching costs, by the way, that also
Yeah.
can be a really good one. But you need to find your moat outside of just product value.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's your relationship with the support team today, and what would you advise, given you've worked at some of the most defining digital product companies of our times, what does a great relationship between product and CX team look like?
Yeah, I'll tell you the great relationship. And I actually also want to quickly breeze over, I think, the changing role of support teams and CX teams in the future as well. So great relationship looks like it's partnership. They're not service organization. They are a partner. They're the front line to our customers. Yep. And if they do not have a voice of when something goes wrong, that everybody in R&D team is able to drop everything and jump on the issue, you're fundamentally not customer driven.
Yep.
Because that is the channel where people literally coming to you, they're not saying somewhere in Discord or in somewhere in Reddit, they're coming to you and saying, I have an issue. And if it's a pattern and you're not able to be heard inside your R&D organization, that is a big issue.
Yep.
That is, I think, it's only in the making a collapse of the company because they're no longer listening to their own customers. Yep. However, I also think that the role of the support and just overall services is going to change in the age of AI. Yeah, I know we talk a lot about AI is going to automate everything and going to automate people out of the jobs, but at the same time, those human connections are going to matter more than ever.
Yep.
So I think role of service of these service orgs, previously service orgs, customer support teams, is going to be a lot more revenue generating roles than just the support organization. Or just the cost center where they usually bucket it into. Because those touch points with real humans are going to be what can create your moat, what can validate your brand, as what can differentiate your company. I mean, look at even OpenAI. They just released in their offering of professional services that they charge millions of dollars. So I think overall support and professional services is going to be much bigger revenue generating items on top of subscription businesses and just take up much bigger portion of the overall bookings and cash that the company is generating.
Yeah, customer centricity and customer love will be the differentiation that we're going after.
I think everybody needs to reread a book written about Zappos.
Yes.
And how in the world where shoe selling was not differentiated whatsoever, support created that brand and created that company and really created to be an acquisition target for Amazon for later. It can be your differentiator. It can be a reason why people choose you. Just not enough tech companies, somehow we got lost in automation and putting it as an afterthought
Yeah.
because, oh my gosh, product is going to solve all the problems. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe, again, hopefully we will get there in the future. But I think over the next 10 years, people interactions with our technology, like on our company side,
Yeah.
is what's going to drive a lot of that brand work and a lot of that actual building for the customers, and customers feeling like they're being heard.
Yep.
Because when there's so many choices, they're going to go to a company that they feel is supporting them.
That's right.
And hearing them, not just a utilitarian tool of some sort that provides a function.
Yep.
So I think that human connection, again, is going to get reprioritized in tech a lot more over the decade-long deprioritization that it's been going through.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. Maybe on that note, what are some of the companies or brands that you use in your personal life where you feel the connection, where you feel they are customer-centric, and why?
Yeah, so I'll do a couple non-tech ones. I think Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A's model and how much they really double down on being family-owned business. They know their market. They have pretty fixed menu, and I just I used to live in California where everybody would in and out, and now here in Tennessee, everybody's eating Chick-fil-A, and the lines are insane. People are so happy to work there. It's like a family business, and people love to go there.
Yeah.
It's like it's a cool thing to go to Chick-fil-A, but it's just
Wow.
it's a wonderful thing that they've created. The product, I mean, it's fried chicken.
Yeah.
Everybody can do fried chicken,
Yeah.
but what they've created around it is so incredible. I think the other one is really fascinating, In and Out on the other side. Talk about super tiny menu and just staying true to it for decades and decades,
Right.
and still absolutely crushing it from business perspective. I think that there's just something about, hey, I know what our customer likes, and we're going to continue doing that really fucking good.
Yeah.
And there's so much value to it. But on the other side, I think for my personal products, I love Spotify. It just feels like it knows me.
Right.
And that level, anytime I needed support, they would reply really quickly. They would give me everything that I'd wanted. So I just feel like it's integrates into my life and it becomes part of me. And anytime product does that, I feel heard.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that even if I don't have much interaction with the product, or the support team or people building behind
Right.
it, it still feels like they see me.
That's
and
right.
that's
Wow.
the feeling you want to go
Yeah.
after with your customers.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. So.
But for that, you need to know thy customer.
Know thy
Like,
customer.
so well,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
well.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
ICP definition is
Yeah,
so
yeah,
crucial.
Yeah. So either you're Spotify level good where the customer centricity is baked into every design, every
Yes.
product choice, or for most majority, but even though they're probably doing a lot of customer listening behind the scenes, I'm sure. Or
Yeah.
others if you are very customer facing, then making sure that the product and the service experience are both equally good and equally prioritized.
Yeah, I think you can tell actually of which company is customer centric by how much their leadership team or just employees engage with the customers
Yeah.
and talk to them in other way, not just through support queue, but on social media or on community forums and whatnot. For example, I find it really fascinating that Dylan, CEO of Figma, still replies to customers on LinkedIn and X. That's wonderful. That's
Even
how,
on the day of IPO, by the way.
yeah, and that's really the DNA that you want to continue in the company. That everybody's talking to the customer in all of the different channels and staying close to it.
Yeah.
Without it, you just become jaded, and it's just they become a number to you. And the moment they become a number to you, you've lost that spark.
You've lost the spark. Elena, thank you so much for your time. This was lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.